Okay, well, thanks everybody. Thanks for joining. There might be a few others that join us a little later on. It's an honor to be here and to have a group from all over the world joining us in Healing the Web of Life. My purpose in sharing this work and sharing Healing for the Web of Life with everybody is that I think we've reached a point of critical mass on our planet where our actions in the physical are no longer sufficient to bring our planet back into balance, and that we have to couple that with our work in the spirit world. Because as we have individuals who want to do positive things, we also have individuals who are hypnotized by this idea of greed and don't understand that if we overharvest now, we'll starve in the future. And by modeling healing the web of life, by modeling that in our actions day by day, we don't even have to say anything to change people, right? We just embody it. And then the people who are ready to resonate with that, they come and they ask and they say, oh, well, teach me or share with me or whatever that is. You become a leader without having to be an activist, if that makes sense. So it's an honor to have people want to join me in this. It feels great. It's been a vision that I've had for many years. We've been doing this for many years. And the vision that I had was that, I can make a positive difference by myself, but if we have different people in different parts of the world, this web gets woven over the world, and it helps it in a more profound way, because it's not just me, it's everybody, and our ripples. It's not just my ripples going out, it's every individual's ripples going out. What everybody here is doing as well in a positive way, and other people who might be watching on video. There are a lot of people who watch us on video. So before we start, I'd like to just go around the circle and have everybody introduce themselves. Just share with us where you're from and how you got here and your experience with shamanic work. So Karina, why don't you go ahead?
Okay. So I'm Corinne. I'm based in Spain, and I'm here because I did the whole workshop with Scott, the training on Hawaii. I think it was kind of 5 or 6 years ago. Many years have passed. And so after going through my personal process, I think I'm ready, and I got involucrated already in stuff here where I'm living right now, and I think it's very nice to have this tool to be able to do stuff where many people maybe want to do something, but they don't know what or how. So it's great.
Thanks, Corinne. Sherry?
I'm Sherry from Miami, Florida, down here. And being a seeker of truth and intuitive all my life, just a very shy onlooker of what is going on in everybody else's life, not really being much of a participant. This work is as real as it gets for me, and I'm so honored to be able to be with my people. So what got me here is just getting to the higher levels of as many collectives as possible that are on the planet that have a foundation that's expanding and being built into a singularity. And I honestly think that spirit medicine and what you're doing, Scott, I would say this is the truth for me, the most truthful for me, because when we are doing work on other people and we're swiping, I don't think it gets any more intimate than that, which is beautiful and wonderful. It's like the truth will emerge. So I'm so honored to be here.
Thank you, Sherry. And it's what you say is true about working in the spirit medicine, because we need to heal ourselves as individuals before we can actually step into our full roles as custodians, guardians, and caretakers of the web of life. For many reasons. Many reasons. But if we're not we're part of it. First of all, we belong to the earth. We're part of the web of life. So by healing ourselves, we're directly working on the web of life as well. And then how we walk with our relations changes. It's as simple as when I'm feeling healed, if I've received healing, I don't take it out on my wife, who's also part of the web of life, right? It's very simple, right? That's the simplest place of it. But, if I'm feeling content and at peace, I don't, throw the garbage out my car window, right? Like, who does that? But lots of people do that. And why? There's an illness of spirit that causes people to do that. There's an illness of spirit that would cause somebody to say, oh, here's this piece of land. Let me see if I can take as much as I can take from this, irrespective of the pollution and damage that I cause, what happens to the water or the future generations. There's something ill in the person's spirit, right? There's all sorts of logic, mind, reasons, and justifications that people will share to justify those actions. But when you get underneath it, there's a spiritual component there where someone does that for a reason, and that reason is that there's an imbalance spiritually. So as we heal that individually, collectively, we step back into our roles of caretakers, custodians, and guardians of the web of life. And we're able to do that in a way where we're provided for. There is an abundance. And simultaneously, there's an abundance for future generations, not just for me here now. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Sherry, for sharing that.
Welcome. Thank you.
Sky?
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hi, nice to see you all. Hi, Scott. Thank you for hosting this beautiful event. I'm from Australia. I'm in Tasmania, very close to Antarctica. The traditional name for Tasmania is Latrawita, and I'm in an area called Kanamaluka, which is the meeting of 3 rivers. And this is just, beautiful. This is absolutely the kind of work I want to be doing. And I have a group here in Tasmania that we're meeting, particularly through those COVID years when everyone was very isolated, trying to send some beautiful healing energy out through the web of light. I have a shamanic healing practice here. It's mainly following in the Andean tradition, the tradition of the Kero, but I'm also interested in shamanic practice from all cultures and all times. I guess I see our role as we're stepping up into this role of Earth Keeper, and this work on the energetic level it's what we need to do. It's, we heal ourselves on the energetic level, so we have to heal humanity and all of Earth on that energetic level. And I feel like actually, in a strange way, even in spite of all the problems that we see and the chaos and the destruction and the war, bizarrely, I kind of see these issues as the solution, because they're actually forcing us to step up, and we're shifting the vibration on the planet. And finally, humanity is actually in a place where they can meet this new vibration. And it sometimes feels like small work when there's a meeting of 6 people, but I believe that even one person doing that work sends out a ripple that is macrocosmic. So, thank you, and lovely to see you all.
Yeah, thank you, Sky. And yes, it's the ripples that we send out. We're not politicians. We're not trying to have big rallies, right?
Yeah.
We can work more subtly. And on a personal note, my family and I, we are going to Tassie in March, and we're going to be there. We were going to be there for 3 weeks.
You should come and see me. Come and have a coffee.
Yeah, we will. Where are you? Are you in Hobart, or where are you?
Launceston.
Okay. Yeah, we will be in that area. We're going to be up by Freycinet, and then going over from Freycinet over to Cradle Mountain, and then up into the Tarkine, where my wife was previously.
Amazing.
my wife lived in Tassie for 5 years.
Yeah.
She's Australian, and she lived in Tassie for 5 years back around 2000, I think.
Yeah.
20 years ago. And so she hasn't been back in a long time, and so this is a big trip for her on that level. And I've never been. My daughter has never been, so very excited. And we will definitely.
That's amazing.
Just pop me an email, and we'll
will.
get in touch, and we'll share the itinerary and figure out when we can.
Yeah, I'd love to meet you all.
Team.
That'd be beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be great. Yeah. So anyway, personal. Sorry for the digression, everybody. back to our introductions. Christiane.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. Hi, I'm Christiane. I'm from Canada. And I'm here because I got the email. And I don't know, it's a good place to be. So here I am.
Thanks, Christiane. Thanks for sharing. And how's everything? How are you doing? How's Canada treating you?
Well, it's getting cold now. So it's a little bit sad for me when it starts to get cold because I don't like that. And it's hard on my bike because I'm a cyclist.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's kind of a little bit snowy. I don't like that icy snow because that's when it gets dangerous. So yeah, but that's that time of year.
Well, nice to see you. Good
yes.
To see you in a little while.
Yeah.
Thanks. Gillian.
Scott. Hi, everyone. I'm Gillian, and I live in the Snowy Mountains in New South Wales, Australia. I guess I'm a herbalist, but I have done many, many years with a mystery school in New Zealand, and I so agree what it's saying. That possibly the truth and the way is to work on this level. One of the things that I learnt was ritual magic, so that I'm sending with rituals and intention. Try to be daily, but I don't get around to that. Out into the world for all the things that we need: love and compassion, peace, awareness, truth, light, and as Sherry says, that I see that as well. I see that maybe all these troubles in the world and everything might be a bit of a train wreck, but it's opening up a passage for people to unify and become one. And possibly we're in a bit of a tunnel, but we're going to get through that as long as we keep focusing on the truth. And our roles are very important, very, very important. You may sort of slink off into your sort of ordinary 3D world and go, woe, it's me, and you're really negative and discredit, but you can't afford to do that. We're going to get to that point that the Peruvians sort of predicted, it might be 4 years or so of trouble, and then we're going to emerge like butterflies out of a cocoon. So you have to keep that faith, and sort of many people don't have the wherewithal to keep that faith, I guess, and it's very important. I've got this friend who rang up the other day just specifically to sort of say, I really love what you're sharing, and it's really important to me, and I've saved it, and good on you. And that was such good feedback, because that's what I'm trying to do, and I'm influenced by a whole group of people in this fraternity called the House of the Bee that sends out healing energy all the time. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm also a naturalist, so I still sort of work a little bit for the national park, and very much conservationist, very much care about the ocean. For instance, I've been down whale watching recently, and I'm sort of addicted to that. It's so fantastic. It's so fantastic to see these 40,000 whales, humpback whales, we reckon, that we've restored from nearly zero since 1978. So that sort of thing's really heartening. Here I am in my 60s and looking back at that and thinking things work. Just keep going. So yeah, that's and their message I went and swam with them years ago, and their message was mankind's in a bit of strife, especially the men, and can you see that over time? And we'll emerge from it eventually. I see Sherry's got a nice background of dolphins too.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's me, and love Scott's Zooms. So good to be here.
Yeah, thanks. Glad you can make it today.
Yeah.
Glad the timing worked out for you. That's great.
Yeah.
And just what you and Sky were saying about the way I look at it is that it's like a fever that has to boil before we get better, or the blister has to burst. It's kind of uncomfortable. It can be uncomfortable. But it's really important also as we step into leadership roles, is modeling, knowing that what we do does vibrate outwards and that those ripples extend outwards. And so that, what we do does touch other people. And then they're inspired by that. And then what they do touches other people. And so we don't know where those ripples are going to go, how many reflections they have, right? If you're in a bay that's got a lot of sharp angles on it, and a wave comes in, it reflects and reflects and reflects and reflects. And it's the same thing, right? It's like what we do reflects off of different parts of the web of life, off of different people. And it continues. Those ripples continue. They don't end. They continue down and through the years, right? There's things that, on both levels, right? How many people have you met who have had traumas from their early childhood, and the ripples of those traumas still affect them today, right? Maybe decades in the future, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years. Some people never escape from those ripples. But it's the same thing. Those vibrations, those ripples of our positive actions are the same. And so when we work with someone and we help them to heal from that childhood trauma, all of a sudden their canoe is going on a different course. Their ripple is different now. And that continues in that direction into the future. And you don't know what's going to happen. How is that going to affect them when they have children and how they raise their children? And that helps that in a positive way. Right. And we're seeing that now my daughter is now 14. And so, the awareness that her and her classmates have around global issues of environmental conservation, that was not taught when I was in grade school or in high school. We didn't, I in the 1980s, in the early 80s when I was in high school, that wasn't even mentioned. There wasn't even a talk about it. If you start to talk about environmental stuff in the 80s, people would look at you like you were some kind of freak. And now it's accepted. Now it's mainstream. So these are the ripples moving forward. The people who came before us in the 60s and the 70s who are active in sharing that in these messages and active in sharing the old teachings, right? So on the one level, we say, well, this is a new way of being, and we're ready to up level, and we're ready to step into our roles as earth keepers, right? I heard somebody say that. On another level, that's how it's always been. And the last couple of 100 years has been the aberration, right? Most cultures were earth keepers because, if you ate all the food, there wasn't any more food later. You couldn't go to Costco and just buy more, right? You had to be in tune because people lived close to the earth, and we were in tune with the land around us. So we had to be earth keepers. We had to tend the land. We had to have the land in balance where it would produce enough for us to survive, but also for the rest of the web of life to survive, not just today, but into the future and for future generations. And so that's a big part of what's happening now is we're starting to wake up and realize that we need to be more in touch with and closer to the land. We need to walk on the land. We need to tune into the land. And to have those types of awarenesses can shift people. And as I'm talking about this, something comes to mind, an experience I had a number of years ago here on Kauai. It was fairly early in the morning, and I had dropped my daughter at the bus to take her to school. And afterwards, I stopped by this beach, and there's a trail that takes you down. It's about a 10-minute walk through the bush to the beach. And there are these birds. They're called shamas or shama thrushes, and they're really beautiful birds. They're small. They kind of look like a robin. but they have this beautiful call, and they're amazing mimickers, right? So you can whistle to them, and they'll whistle back exactly what you whistle. And if you start to have relationships with these birds, they will want to have a conversation with you, right? And it's really amazing. I've taken videos of them and recorded their songs, and then I was playing it for my daughter in my yard one time, and another shaman that was in the yard heard the recording and started whistling back to the recording, right? So this is how interactive these birds are. So anyway, I stopped on the trail there, and I'm having a conversation with a bird, right? Which is, to me, that's just perfectly normal, right? This is just what you do, right? It's like, there's a bird, it's whistling, I'm going to talk to it. It has something to say, I'm alone. So I'm whistling back and forth this bird, and da-da-da. And then all of a sudden, this guy comes down, and he's this kind of gruff dude that's holding a surfboard, local guy. He's a real rough guy, kind of big, rough, like, hey. And so they do the typical Hawaii thing of trying to like kind of push on your energy, right? And like, hey, what are you doing, bro? You talking to the birds? You some kind of crazy guy? And I just look at him and I go, well, of course I'm talking to the birds. Don't you have to listen to what the Aina says? The Aina being the land and Hawaiian. And it stopped in its tracks because he was expecting me to react and either be defensive or be, like put down. But instead, I kind of looked at him like, what? Of course, this is normal. Like, don't you talk to the birds? Don't you listen to the Aina? Like, how would you? Don't you listen to the land and the environment? Like, how do you surf if you're not listening to the ocean? You can't just go. You have to listen, right? So this is the energy that I had, and he stopped in his tracks. He goes, "Oh yeah, of course. Oh yeah, I had a girlfriend one time, and she told me that was a dead relative if one of those birds talked to you." And I go, no, it's a bird. Right? And she goes, oh yeah, she was crazy anyway. And here's the thing that was amazing, right? Then he stopped and he looked at me and he started to pour out his life story to me. And I'm just going like, oh boy, here we go. I'm just trying to go have a conversation with a bird, do a little qigong and watch the sunrise. Right? And I'm not trying to do a healing session right now. Okay, so I'm like, oh yeah, like we're gonna start walking down the beach, and so I keep walking, and he's walking with me, talking the whole time, and then we get to the bottom, and I know he's going to the beach, so I'm gonna go to the other way to the bluff. The trail splits. I know he's gonna go surf, and he's like, oh yeah, bro, you're all right. Anytime you want to surf in this break over here, because the breaks are real territorial, you just tell him. I can't remember the guy's name. You just tell anybody. If anyone give you a problem, tell them you're my friend. And then he walks off, and I go and do my practice and kind of like brush off the session that was, try to come to me. But you see, what my point is that when we normalize this behavior, it shocks people out of their hypnosis, their front, right? People feel this social pressure to act a certain way, to conform with the expectations of what they feel is the norm, right? And so the norm is to make fun of anybody who's quote woo in this case, right? And so he was just doing what he was programmed to do from when he was a little kid. But because it didn't poke into any of my personal issues, and I was able to just calmly be in my grounding and be like, well, of course, this is normal. Even if he was an intimidating type of person, which he was trying to be intimidating to me, right? But because I was just calm and normal and just said, well, this is normal. Of course. Don't you do that? Like, don't you know how to tie your shoe? Right? That was the energy it was. And because of that response, it shocked him right out of that. And he was like, oh yeah, of course it is. Right? But if it had poked into my own issues and I had been defensive to him, and been like, why are you talking to me like that? Or, hey, what's wrong with you? Or any type of that type of behavior, or if I had slinked away, right, and felt diminished by that encounter, then that ripple wouldn't have been passed on to him. And what would have happened was his ripple that isn't even really his, the one that had taken over him, this kind of hypnosis of being misaligned or making fun of intuitive connection with the earth, would have been the one that progressed. So it's like two different waves that connect with each other. And then afterwards, one wave goes through and the other wave dissipates, right? And so that's where our personal healing work comes in. That's why it's so important to have our grounding and our personal healing, because there are a lot of ripples that are not positive out there. There are a lot of ripples of distance and separation from the earth and all sorts of things that we're aware of, conflict, misuse. And we have to have our healing and our grounding in order to hold our course when we come across those ripples in the world. And we hold our course in the face of that, and then everything else changes. That makes sense. Thanks. And Dara, do you want to say hi?
Hi, everyone. So what particularly are we sharing? I popped in a little late.
You're just sharing your name, where you're from, how you got here.
Cool. I'm Dara, and I'm currently located in Colorado. I'm from Louisiana originally. And what brought me here, I just wrapped up my level 1 training, and yeah, same thing. I got the email, and I think that gathering in groups and in community is a really powerful way to be able to have that ripple effect of that energy being pushed outwards. My categories and yeah, so that's why I'm here. Just wanted to gather with everybody and share in the experience and being able to push that energy outwards.
Thank you. Thanks for joining. Thanks for taking the time. Yeah. So thank you, everybody. Really appreciate the gathering of everybody here and the energies of everybody here today. And so for today, the journey that we're going to do is merging with the web of life. And so everybody knows how to journey. We're going to do a journey to the lower world. And I'm assuming that Sky, I haven't worked with you previously, but I'm assuming that you know what I mean when I say going to the lower world. Yeah, that's what I got. I got that. Okay. So we're going to do a journey to the lower world. And when we go to the lower world, we can meet with our primary power animal that we work with, or primary power animals, and ask our power animal to take us, help us merge with our consciousness with the web of life. Merge our consciousness with the web of life. And then just allow that experience to continue for the duration of the drumming. And I'll say that merging with the web of life, merging our consciousness, our awareness with the web of life, is something that's happened, I think, since the dawn of humanity, right? And while we can do that while we're out in nature and we can practice that daily, we can always go to deeper and deeper levels of awareness, right? So these levels of awareness, when we're really skilled, we can see the concentric rings. If you understand what I mean by concentric rings, what I mean is that if a hawk hits a rabbit in a field, the other birds and the other prey move a certain way when there's a hawk in the air. And then that ring ripples outward. So even if I'm a mile away and I don't see that hawk hitting the bird, I can see the vibrations that's happening with the smaller species, and I can feel that. And I can tell that there's something that's happening over there, even if I'm not directly visually aware of that, right? So I feel the clues. For me, I'm more of a feeler. I'm not as visually oriented as some people. I hear things. Some people are more visually oriented. They see things. Or we just know it, right? We just know it. Right? Like the same thing, like we, even in the house, and so that's in nature, even in our house, right? We'll see sometimes our cat will change behavior. I just saw your cat there. So we can see my cat, our cats, or one of our cats will change behavior, and we'll be like, oh, what's going on? There is you can see that they act differently. And so because of their behavioral change, we'll know, oh, maybe there's a stray cat in the yard, right? Maybe there's a bird in a tree. Maybe there's a dog on the loose in the neighborhood, right? And they're inside the house, right? But we can see that their behavior changes. So that also sends out a ripple, right? So this is in the physical and the observational sense. In the shamanic journeying sense, there's another way in which we can merge our awareness with the web of life. And this is what we're going to do today. And then when we come back from the journey, we're all going to share. Anybody have any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Just for the journey, do you want us to be on mute and just listening to like drumming and ourselves, but just with you with the sound on? Otherwise, it's going to be
correct. Yes, everybody,
crazy.
Please be muted, and I'm going to drum.
Yeah.
So if you have a drum, you can mute yourself and drum yourself too, if you want, or you can just listen to my drumming. That's fine. Sometimes, the drumming through the audio speaker, even with my enhanced microphone, might not be as ideal as your drumming. So you're welcome to do either. But yes, please, everybody, be on mute except for me, and that way we don't get 6 people's feedback. Yeah. Thanks. Any other questions?
So the intention is to merge my consciousness with the consciousness of the web of life.
Correct. That's right. And you can ask further, how do I do that on a daily basis as well if I'm not drumming, right? Just by walking around. So that's another thing too. Can I merge with my awareness with the web of life when I'm just walking around in the woods as well? Okay, great. We're going to start. Okay, welcome back, everybody. We'd like to share first about what they were shown in their journey. Yeah, go ahead, Dara.
So, I traveled down and I met with the wolf, and he started to show me all of these like small threads that were just like shooting forward and then zooming out and showing this like fabric that was in the process of being built. And I asked the question again because sometimes I get verbal but also visual, and he wasn't really saying anything. And then he was like, well, let me show you. And we were running together really fast through this tree line. And then I like jumped off the edge of this cliff and dove into a body of water. And then he was telling me to be free in your spirit. And then I saw myself running again through a different tree line, but it was green, and I was running with my lions. And I did the same thing of jumping off the edge of the cliff and landing in the water. And then it was telling me to be free in your mind. And then I was running again, but it was snowy, and I was running with a bear, and I was laying in the snow instead of jumping into the body of water. And then it was this message of releasing harshness that creates walls around our heart, and that we can free ourselves from a space of feeling like our heart is like cemented over from the wounding that we've experienced. And then I was getting the image of like the Three of Swords with the heart with these swords in it, but it being like this hard shell over it, like the wounding is getting stuck in place. And then it was telling me that when it's solidified with our wounding, that it's difficult for us to be able to open up our hearts to a greater capacity to truly feel like we're part of something greater than ourselves. And then when we're able to release our own suffering and create that openness within our own being and create that freedom within our spirit and within our minds, then we're better able to recognize ourselves as being part of like this grand fabric of existence. And then I was shown like the final weaving of like this grand tapestry. And then I asked how I can like integrate that information into my system. And he started drawing the like this tetrahedron pattern like over my chest and my heart. And then yeah, that was it. And he sent me off.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That's really beautiful. And it's true, the heart is the great connector. And it's when our heart is able to be open, we can connect. And we can connect and merge with the web of life. We can, as you said, be part of something bigger. Feel that we're connected with something bigger. It also connects our upper chakras, our intuition, with our lower chakras, our survival, our physical reality, right? And so it's the heart is that place of being a connector. It's also how it connects to our hands and our actions in the world. How it translates grounding into action and also spiritual guidance into action, right? So it's a great meeting. It's the great meeting point. It's a central distribution channel, if you will, right? And so it's really beautiful what you share about if the wounding gets solidified, we feel ourselves cut off from that which is around us, other people, the web of life, et cetera, et cetera. That's really important. So again, that shows how important it is to do our own personal healing in order to be one with the web of life and to step into our roles as caretakers and custodians of the web of life. And then also to eventually step into our roles as leaders to help others to step into their roles. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Dara. It's really beautiful. Who'd like to share next? Sky, go ahead.
I can still feel the energy in my body. It's so intensified after the journey. It's beautiful. I think it's always magnified when you do journeys with other people. It's really, really cool, actually. All my power animals and guides were waiting. I love how sometimes when you kind of enter these non-ordinary realms, it's like they know you're coming and they're like, here we are, we're ready, let's go. And there's a bit of a process in the tradition of journeying that I've learnt, where we have to go through a gatekeeper and in the lower world. So it takes me a little bit longer to get down there. But again, it was really ready to connect. And I didn't really even have to ask the question to connect my consciousness to the web of life. It just happened instantly. And it was just like this blast of light, which connected with my heart space. And that opened up. And this was kind of, everything was coming from the heart space. But there was this energy coming up from the earth and energy coming from all directions. And there was this beautiful kind of flow that was coming in and out. And I just enjoyed that sensation for a while. And then an incredible ancestor, a beautiful Native American man came, and it was like this beautiful reaching out across time and space. And we had palm to palm and just looked at each other in the eyes. And it was as if I'm here now and he is wherever he is now, because there's no past, present, or future. And we're connecting in this web of life together and doing this work together across time and space. And it was just really amazing, that connection. And then I was floating upwards, and there was this dancing and whirling energy, like creating whirlpools in the energy field to help the energy move. And it was like connecting with all these centers around the earth, and that they were all moving and dancing. Yeah. And then it was time to come back.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sky, for sharing that. Have you seen that ancestor before?
No. New one for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's beautiful, that connection of working across time and space, across the web of life, and the centers of, around the planet. I guess you're talking about physical centers where this is happening. That's the whole thing, right? It's about weaving the web around the planet so that it's, these vibrations are they're not just coming from independent locations, but they're coming from a web that's woven around the planet. We're reweaving the tapestry, if you will, in a positive way, with positive vibrations.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're reweaving the tapestry with these vibrations of caretaking, of healing. Yeah,
it's lovely though, that reciprocity that comes where, we're able to receive. I mean, we're sending out the blessings and we're sending out the healing, but it's also coming to us from our ancestors, from our descendants, from all time and all space.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're the conduit, and so as the conduit, the healing ripples through us, and we receive the benefit of it as well in the process. And not only are we the conduit, we're also part of the web of life. So there's all sorts of ways in which those vibrations, when we're channeling those vibrations of healing and balance, affect us positively as well. Even if you're doing session work with people, at least for me. It happens that way, where it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's cool. I've received some healing in that too, while I was performing service.
Well, I think the healing is for every living being, including the stones and the trees and
That's right. Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's really beautiful. Thank you. Who'd like to share next? Go ahead.
That was very interesting. Turtle took me deep into the ocean, like on a swimming journey, and into a cave, and it was really dark and deep blue, and then we went into a cave where we were below a tourist boat. Like there was a tourist boat if you're looking up, and there's venomous sea snakes in there that bred and swam, and basically the people in the boat were oblivious and sort of partying what was going on. Then the turtle took me away from there, like dancing into the wide, lit, biodiverse ocean, intact and beautiful, with whales emanating their wisdom beyond. And then the tone changed completely. It was like I got really hot. She got hot, which is a good sign that I think you're in. Everything's changed. So it was one of like dark entities in front of light, and it developed into. It went for quite a while, but developed into lighthouses, symbolic of like beyond. It was just light, and then these dark entities that were really not felt and hot and heavy, and that the light they developed into lighthouses, symbolic of light overcoming the dark entities. So they ended up as evil diminished or dissolving, and me seeing symbolically the lighthouses is very important. Earth keepers, as in like that, a network all around the world of light. And there are other journeys I've had too. You spoke of it before, Scott, of these visions of just amazing ripples and vibes going out like a whole network. There's a great picture somewhere someone did of all these grandmother elders knitting, healing right around the world. Big grid. So yeah, I see it. It's all basically a lighthouse symbol.
Yeah, beautiful. That is, and that's the nodes of everybody who's holding the light, channeling the light, bringing the light as earth keepers, as healers of the web of life, custodians and guardians of the web of life. I'm curious, the sea snakes that you saw. That's kind of a tongue twister, isn't it? Say that 10 times fast. The sea snakes that you saw, were they in the boat or were they in the water with the turtles? I didn't get that
far. They were in the cave. Under the boat was sort of in this big ocean cave, and it was really dark below, and the turtle was taking me down to see. Their sort of it was like it was symbolic of their venom. What's the word? Their poisonousness. Venom. There's no word. The venomousness. Right.
But the venom was in the water. It wasn't in the boat with the people. The people were floating on the water.
They're in the snakes, and it was like, okay, these people are in this boat and they're enclosed. They're in a bit of an echo chamber, and they're oblivious to what's going on under the surface.
Right.
So that's how I saw it, as a real symbol of humanity's a bit oblivious to what's going on under the surface. And in some ways, if we went to the upper world, it'd be what's going on up there? What's all this stuff about that is huge. It's as they say in the Bible, the battle of the princes and principalities, and that when we were talking earlier about, okay, this is the upset time where we're all being awakened to how to shift our whole energy from that of conflict and separateness to unity and oneness, is like, this is the way humanity has to learn, perhaps. It's a learning, Earth's a learning place, and it's perhaps the way that we have to learn, and our souls have to develop and evolve to go, well, hang on, this isn't the right way anymore. Earth's changing and humanity's changing, and we're coming back into our luminous beings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that symbology there about humanity being distracted by just a party, by whatever you can buy online, by whatever is posted on Instagram, whatever your concern of the moment might be. And
you don't blame people like you can't blame people though, because it's pretty heavy if you look at things. Like if you've got this warriorship in you, you can get addicted to looking at, what's going on in Gaza. You know what I mean? Like you can get really troubled and addicted and negative and stressed. And so in some ways, you could call it bypassing what needs to be looked at, But otherwise, it's sort of like, well, hang on, it's a bit too much for, forgive them for being human to, But greed is a bit,
Sure.
it's a different.
Sure. I mean, each individual is doing the best that they can do. And there's also people with agendas, forces with agendas out there who are intentionally trying to hook the attention of the masses on things that distract them in order to feed off the energy and in order to blind them to what they're oblivious to below the surface. But I love the journey because when you look at that and then you say, oh, okay, and then there's light that's outside of the darkness, and there are these lighthouses that are holding the light, right? That in that context, it's a really profound message. It's a really profound message. It's like, okay, so not only are they holding the light, but the light illuminates the darkness, right? So the light is what illuminates the truth. And so the people who are distracted partying, the cave, they don't see it in the cave, but when they get out and the light is there, they see what's there. So they wake up, right? And that's what I hear in your journey. That's part of that, right? That's part of the job of, we're not trying to convert anybody, but we're shining the light on things. And that's through the process of personal growth. Right? Because most people are not super altruistic, but most people are incredibly vested in their own personal healing and development, even if they don't know it, right? Maybe they're vested in it in the form of, I want something to make this better. Just give me a pill to make it better. But most people, they want to get out of pain. They want to they want to numb their pain. They want to get out of pain. They want to heal. And so by holding the light onto what's happening, which is causing people pain and imbalance, the heart space that both Dara and Sky saw, the heart space there, and what's happening there in the spirit world, we're illuminating the larger picture at the same time. Right? So how many times, for those of you who work with clients, does somebody come in talking about a individual personal matter, and then it's linked to something much larger, right? How many times, the last session, I just did a session for somebody, and in the session, it was, about her being able to step into her full potential as a healer and an artist and her creative expression. But what was underneath that was a societal parasite around the intuitive female aspects of knowing needing to be suppressed and dominated by the male and scientific truth of the world, right? So there we're seeing both, right? You get the personal healing, but it's connected into the larger, bigger picture. And so this is where we have those, as a lighthouse, right? The light, we're shining the light on someone to help them who's come and asked for help. We're not going to do it when people don't ask, because that's intrusive. Right? I'm not gonna go to the store and buy some groceries and go, oh, by the way, I happen to see in your energy field, that's horrible. Don't do that to anybody, right? But when somebody comes, how would you like to be that person? You're like, I'm just trying to do my job. Can you just pay and go, right? But if when somebody comes and asks, then they're receiving the healing personally, but then they're also, the light has to be shown on the larger, because it's there's a connection. The microcosmic and the macrocosmic are intimately related with one another. So there's no way that one can heal without the other. Just put it that way.
So the venomous sea snakes I see as all those things that do distract and poison people's evolutionary journey.
Yeah, I mean, that's right, and it's also the intent that is there. That people are distracted and they're not seeing the intent, the true intent under the surface, right? What's under the surface, the true poison that's under the surface is the spiritual poison, right? And these are the larger spiritual parasitic agreements that are out there, that are things like, it's okay to get what you want through violence, or, someone needs to repress somebody else based on their gender or skin color, or we don't need to list them all, right? My God is the only God, and if you don't believe in my God, you need to die. Okay? Or be converted. Whatever. There's all sorts of parasitic agreements out there. I get everything in the world because, I need to have more than everybody else in order to, prove my own self-worth. Right? There's lots of those global agreements out there that are operating. It's noble to suffer. Suffering is noble. If you want to help people, you need to be a martyr and harm yourself. Those are all parasitic agreements that are out there that are kind of running the show for the large, not all of them, but most people have at least some of those agreements running the show for their life. And if you look around, it's kind of hard to think otherwise, right? If you look around at the majority of people who haven't done shamanic work on one level or another, they're unconscious of, and these poisons, this venom is below the surface of their awareness. And they're just having a good time. They're out at the ball game, they're having the barbecue with their family, and that's all well and good. And then they don't understand why things progress the way they do in life, whether it's to a breakdown in a relationship or conflict or work or a breakdown in health or things like that. They don't understand that that's happening as a result of these spiritual poisons, this venom that is there, that is interrupting the purity of their consciousness and the purity of their connection with Mother Earth. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
It's wonderful.
you get it, right? You can see what I'm saying. So that's what I believe you are being shown in that journey, and the importance of the light there, meaning holding the light to illuminate that for people who want to become conscious of it, right? And this is what I mean by merging our consciousness with a web of life, merging our awareness so that as spiritual healing, so that people can become aware, right? As this heals, as those venomous agreements, parasitic venomous agreements heal in individuals, then we switch, we turn, we change, we evolve, and our behavior evolves with it. And I don't honestly believe, I believe that that is necessary in order for us to truly do what we need to do to bring the earth back into balance, to restore the planet, to restore the web. It's more than just the physical, right? It's more than the physical. It's these venomous agreements, these parasitic agreements that lay below the surface of most people's daily awareness. That's what has to heal, and that has to happen through spiritual healing. Because once that heals, then everyone's like, well, of course, why would I want to cut down all the trees in my backyard? That's ridiculous. Why would I want to spray poison on my land and poison the groundwater when I can just pull the weeds with my hands? Right? Why would I want to do that? That's silly. Why would I want to, chop old growth trees to make chopsticks? That's stupid. I don't want to do that. Right? It's like, that's ridiculous. Why are we doing that? That doesn't make any sense at all. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. Right? It's thinning a forest versus clear cutting a forest. It's two totally different things. And but until that other stuff that's below the surface is healed, the actions aren't going to necessarily change on a huge scale. Yeah. Thanks, good.
Beautiful. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah. Okay, who'd like to share next?
I go.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I went to the lower world and I saw my spirit animal, and I saw an image like standing, with the arms open. And what I saw were many frequency of waves around, and then like light that tried to enter me, or like light on this area, light coming, and more in the upper part of the body. And later I had the impression like from the mouth there needed to come a sound or something, like a singing or a chanting or making some kind of noise, and then eagle landed on my head and they like removed the cord around the neck, and then also they removed something off the head, like taking something off from the head. And later I asked about how to do that in nature, this connection, and I got again the feeling of singing or chanting, and I saw an image of like barefoot stamping on the earth like they did in African cultures when they were like chanting, I think, and stamping with the foot on the earth. And then my spirit animal, and also this step of offering something. So what we learned is offering something to the spirits of the earth when you enter somewhere. And then my spirit animals came and they told me that they are always with me. So it was good to hear also the first journey of Dara, because then I understood also the first images. It was more around the heart area, and it kind of, I got it, I think.
Yeah, I think you did. That's right. And I think it's, that opening of the heart and opening of the expression through the throat,
Yeah.
and connecting here so that you're connected here and grounded to the earth.
Yeah.
Right? We've talked about this a lot, the necessity to stay grounded in Mother Earth and connected to Creator, and keeping that connection clear and flowing. Right?
Yeah.
We don't want stagnation, but we don't want overflowing either. We don't want to move too fast. It's a nice steady trickle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Karina. Thank you. Sherry or Christiane, would you like to share? No? Yeah, go ahead.
Mine was very negative.
Go ahead, share with us.
So there was this a lot of building, and it really irritated me, and I just couldn't be around it. I thought it was ugly. I didn't like the sound. It was just, I just couldn't be around it. And then I saw these like a palm leaf, like a giant palm leaf, like that, like really long and thick palm leaves, being dragged by these little birds. So these little birds, these tiny little birds, were dragging these huge, thick leaves. It looked too heavy for these birds to drag them, but these birds are just these little feet carrying these big leaves that were very dense, and that one didn't bother me as much. It wasn't enjoyable, but I could sit with that. But it was just negative, and yeah. So,
well, what do you think the symbology of that was?
well, building, creating, and then I just felt like I was like, okay, I'm not going to be judging these, things I'm deeming as ugly, because I tend to get very annoyed with my sister, and the other sister, like, that's her process. Just let her have her thing. I'm like, okay, yeah. And then today I had a very difficult interaction with this person, so I think it was tied up with that. But yeah, I think it was just.
I'm gonna pose a question or a theory here, which is that the intention of the journey was to merge with the web of life, awareness with the web of life, and then you were shown buildings, and then you were shown birds trying to pull a palm leaf that was way too big for them. Right? Now, what do birds do when they make their home?
I don't know.
Well, they take.
No.
You don't know what birds do when they make their nest?
They pull little pieces and they make nests, I guess. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
They make little nests. Now, imagine birds making nests out of something that's way too big for them, like palm leaf. It's out of place. It's not in balance. Right? So what I believe is being shared with you in the journey is that these cities, these buildings, it's too much. It's the equivalent what humans are doing, trying to build as we have been building, would be is equivalent to birds trying to build their nest out of a gigantic palm frond. It doesn't happen, right? You don't see sparrows building nests out of coconut palms. Maybe if they peel like one little piece off of it, like there's a myna bird that lives at my nests at my house here, and we see her. She comes and she peels strips off the palm and then lands on the roof, holds it down with her foot, ties it in a loop with her beak, and then flies it up into her nest. But that's just a tiny little strip like that. That's the thinness of a piece of string, right? Not the entire frond. So I think what was being shown to you is an awareness of how imbalanced our current way of building and living is. Imagine if birds were stripping down palm fronds to build their nests, right? What would happen to the trees? Think about how many birds are out there. Right? So this is what we are doing as humans. Yeah, we're taking way more resources than we actually need to create these homes that we have. And there's so many people, right? We're using so many resources. So I think that is the message that the Web of Life was sharing with you. And I think that's actually something that you feel intuitively, but maybe haven't been able to articulate yet. Because I know you from our emails and correspondence that you value, nature time, and you like you're sensitive to these things, but being able to articulate it and understand that, oh, okay, it's actually not me that's out of balance here. It's the city that's out of balance. Right. And to know that, right. And to really take that to heart, that it's not me, right? Because we tend to feel like, what's wrong with me? I'm not fitting in with everybody else. Well, there's nothing wrong with you. What makes you different is that you are aware of these people being in a boat with venomous snakes underneath them, whereas everybody else on the boat isn't. Right. So this is what it is. And so again, it goes back to the same theme. This whole meeting today has been about this theme about, as we heal ourselves, we're able to better help others, right? And better help hold that space as caretakers and guardians of the web of life. So for you, I believe you are being shown that, look, this is what's out of balance. And if, living in there, don't doubt yourself, but just be clear in yourself. This is what's out of balance, and don't take on these, you said you had a negative interaction with someone. It's their imbalance. You don't need to take on their imbalance. That's their imbalance. Right? Just like the guy who was trying to intimidate me when I was talking to the shaman bird. Right? It's his imbalance. I didn't take it on. I didn't agree to let his imbalance come into my day. It's great. He gave me a great gift. He gave me a gift of a story to tell people. He gave me, it's wonderful. He gave me a great gift, and I gave him a great gift. Right? Hopefully, through holding that ground, holding my ground and sharing that vibration with him, that wave, hopefully that ripple moved on in his life in that way. So, it became a positive exchange. So this is the thing, okay, is making sure that we're able to, know for sure where we stand, that our standing is, actually in right relationship, and that I am connected to Mother Earth and to Father Sky, and I'm living rightly. And when others come who are not necessarily living in right relationship, or things are coming and they're feeling out of balance, then I have the clarity to know what that is, to recognize it. First, I have to recognize it. Yeah. Thank you, Dara. I have the clarity to recognize that. And that's really important, right? To maintain that clarity, recognize it, and then the grounding to be able to keep my truth, keep that vibration, hold that vibration, even when others are trying to, consciously or not, impose their vibrations on us. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you for sharing that. Okay. Would anybody else like to share? Share you don't want to share?
I had to step away and do work stuff.
Ah,
And so I taped what I missed. So I'll do the journey afterwards. So my
no
apologies
worries.
for that.
No apologies needed.
I'll- I
We have to
can,
manage our ordinary reality, day-to-day affairs. That's important.
yeah, after
So
my
yeah,
journey, I'll send it to you. I'll
sure,
tell
you
you
can.
what the journey
Yeah,
was.
sure. Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah, and that's important. Thank you for honoring that, your ordinary reality, day-to-day affairs. That's really important. You know, as you guys all know, when I teach, I feel that it's very important that we honor our ordinary reality obligations, because that's what makes it practical. That's what gives us spiritual grounding, makes it applicable rather than something that is just a ephemeral thought. We can apply it in day-to-day life.
There was an amazing wave about 40 minutes ago that I felt. It was from you guys and the connectedness. I was trying to maintain space, hold space for both. So it was a night. It was some nice waves going on. So I don't know what you guys were doing, but I'll find out.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you.
You're talking to somebody for work. You're like, did you guys feel that? No, don't do that. All right. Well, thank you all very much. If anybody has anything else they want to share, now's the time to share it. If not, we will see you. Oh, go ahead, Karina.
Maybe it's not related directly to this topic, but indirectly, I just learned something the last week, which was so nice to also understand, which brings me to all this closer regarding how to enforce the spirits of the land, because they told, well, my friend a bit, well, it's good to enforce the spirits of the land here. And then in another journey, she asked how to, and they said, like painting them or symbols. And then I understood why they always did, when you see the old caves and what they did, always the prehistoric cultures. I never understood why do they do all the paintings, so I didn't get it. And that was so cool to understand. It's all about bringing it into this reality. And somehow with today also, like everything is starting to somehow coming together.
Right. Yes, you're understanding it, but not quite yet able to put it in words. I get it.
Yeah, maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that process, I just want to speak to that process for a minute, because that's an important process. It takes a little while to integrate the healing that we do in the spirit world and the understandings that we receive into something that we can verbalize and articulate. Okay. But just because you're not quite able to articulate it or verbalize it yet doesn't mean it's not happening. Right. So that does take time to gain those understandings. Right. So what I'm hearing you say is that I feel and understand it, but I can't yet say exactly how it works. Right. Right. It's like I feel it, I get it, and I get it. The importance of supporting the spirits through actions in the physical world. Right. So if you remember way back in the beginning of level 1 of the fundamentals class, I talk about developing our language with the spirit world and developing our own unique language with the spirit world. So, if you work in a specific cultural tradition, they will have a specific language, and they will say, well, in our tradition, seeing an owl means this, or seeing an eagle means this. But most of us, we weren't raised within that tradition. So some teachers will say, well, this is my tradition, and therefore for you, this is the spiritual language, and you need to learn our spiritual language. Okay. I'm a little different than that. I say, well, if you didn't grow up in that tradition, I want you to develop your own personal language with the spirit world, right? Because that can never be taken from you, right? And so when you go through, the reason why there's a lot of protocol in spiritual work is to teach that language, that symbolic language, to people in future generations in the culture. But if you didn't grow up in a shamanic culture, if you grew up in a modern culture, you have to have your own language that can't be taken away. The problem when you start to use somebody else's language or spiritual language is that there's always a discussion of, well, does this mean that, or does that mean that? The teacher said this, not that. There becomes like a hierarchy. And you can see how the lines between true spiritual connection and religion have become blurred over the centuries, where it's become ritual and dogma without the actual spiritual connection. Now, of course, this doesn't happen all the time, and there are plenty of people who are still connecting very authentically with their cultural language, even if they didn't come from that culture, right? That's still possible. But I find it very empowering when we develop our own personal language of communication with the spirit world, okay? And this is what you're going through still right now in that process. And it's an ongoing process. It's not like, oh, I got it and now I'm done. Just like acquiring any type of language, over time we become increasingly more articulate in our professions, right? And so you are getting this information and you're now understanding this language that when I develop this language of the spirit world, one of the ways that I communicate to the spirit world is by drawing the picture of the guardian spirits of the land, or by making an offering, right? That's part of my job of sending the communication outward. And I receive communication through, these taking journeys, or perhaps just walking in nature and receiving that communication by being tuned in to this level of awareness, using the spirit mind without the drum, right? I mean, I like using the drum. It helps me get into that consciousness and that spirit mind awareness, but I don't need to use the drum, right? I can, if I'm walking around in nature, I can get into the spirit mind like that and have awareness about things that are around in my environment. That's just being tuned in for me, right? But that it's a developed skill. It's something that you practice and you learn over time. And so that language that is, as you said, supporting supporting those spirit guides, the spirits of the land, that recognizing them, that's very important, right? It is a two-way. It's like any relationship, right? You don't want it to be one-sided. It doesn't work that way. So it's a sign of respect. It's a sign of respect, right? In a lot of places, and certainly in New Zealand, you have to be invited on the land. You don't just walk on the land. You have to be invited on, right? And in a spiritual way, you have to be invited on, right? You wouldn't just walk onto a marae. I would hope not. I hope you don't just walk on to a marae. I mean, if you're going to the restaurant, you don't need to be invited in. Absolutely. You don't need to be like invited into the restaurant to sit down. But certainly, if you're going into, places where it's spiritually active, you're going into lands, not developed lands, you're going onto a marae, into a cultural area, you need to be invited on. There isn't this idea of I'm entitled to walk wherever I want to walk, right? We ask permission before we go someplace. Okay, so this is part of that connecting with the guardian spirits of the land and developing that language. Just to follow on a bit from what you were sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. And did somebody else have something they wanted to share?
I'll just say something, but that definitely applies to lands that have Aboriginal. I rode my mountain bike. I rode my mountain bike in a place in Queensland once, and I didn't ask permission. I'm still suffering the injury.
Yep. Yep. And they're like, hey, you know better than this.
Yeah.
Right. And so here's the thing, too, is that when you're held to a higher standard. Right. It's like, for those of you who have kids or have worked with children, right, you don't hold a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old. Thank you, Scott. Bye. Lovely. Thank you for joining us. You don't hold a 4 or a 5-year-old to the same standard as you would hold an adult, right? If a 4-year-old runs in and interrupts your conversation and says, I want this, right? You're going to talk to them and you're going to explain to them about proper manners, but you're going to do it gently, right? Now, if an adult comes in and acts like a 4-year-old in demanding food, you're going to treat them a little differently, I think, right? I mean, and so this is it. So you're held to a higher level of responsibility. You're held to a higher standard of behavior once you've opened these doors to the spirit world. You're no longer just the oblivious people on the boat who are protected from it because they don't see it. So, you know, what they say, ignorance is bliss. So there's a protection in ignorance to some degree. But it only lasts, it's only up to a point, right? It only lasts to a point. So, yeah, there's lots of metaphors on that. So, okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate everybody taking the time to be here today and to journey. And I look forward to seeing everybody next time.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.